Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and today we're checking out the SITIVIEN ST151 with a wave feature. Now, I'm not sure if they're paying homage to Ernie Emerson for this, but that is where they originally came from, was from Ernie Emerson. That's why they're called the Emerson Wave. So it's a way to quickly deploy your knife, pulling it out of your pocket and making it open immediately. So it's kind of like pulling out a fixed blade. Obviously, a fixed blade is more optimal, but it's basically just as fast. You don't have to deploy the knife. You just yank it out of your pocket, and it deploys on removal. Now, otherwise, this has G10 scales, D2 blade steel, beautiful satin finish on this two-tone blade, and this is a spay point blade. Now, is a spay point blade the best for self-defense, which usually is why you like a wave feature, is for, you know, those type of reasons, you know, to be able, it doesn't have to be, right? Obviously, you can use the wave features, take it out of your pocket and make any type of cut, but the point of it is to get it out rapidly when seconds matter. And I'm not sure if a spay point is the best blade shape for that. However, it's still a very useful blade shape. Not the most acute tip. However, you can still use it for utility cutting because it does still have a tip that somewhat points down. Now, in this case, because of the way it's done, the tip is going to be very strong. So while it's not super acute and super pokey, it is going to be tough. So you could maybe get away with very light duty prying, you know, or, you know, maybe a little bit heavier utility cuts. Now the geometry is pretty nice. Came with a really good edge. And yeah, it's going to slice just fine. Now with the action, you have a flipper tab. Great flipping action. Perfect detent. I would call this a 5. 1 out of 10. It's a 5. Not too strong, not too light. Just right. You just break the detent and it pops. I'm just going to break it. Watch this. Just breaking it, it pops all the way open. So if you give it any sort of encouragement, it snaps out with authority. Then because you have the wave feature, you can technically reverse flick off of it. It's not the most comfortable flick or reverse flick, but you can do it. And then the clip is a deep carry clip that's not reversible, but it has the button screws. I wish they would get away from the button screws. It looks cheap, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having an inset clip, which this one is inset. So, you know, it'd be better just to have flat screws. Is it that big of a deal? No, I don't think it's going to pose that much of an issue. As far as ergos go, it is pretty comfortable. It's good size, good thickness, you know, just a well-rounded, I guess, contoured and rounded knife so that when you get your hands around it, it's comfortable and you feel like you have a lot of leverage. The wave feature does give you a little bit of a ramp. If you go up too high, it's kind of pokey, but you can stay back here and it works just fine. You have the flipper tab to kind of protect you if you were going to stab it into something. Good access to the lock bar. It is on caged bearings and it is very smooth. I haven't oiled it or anything, and it is very, very, very smooth. Now, the centering, it did not come perfectly centered, so let's go over some negatives. So, the first negative, the centering was bad. Is it that big of a deal for this price of a knife? No. The lockup was rock solid, but, you know. The next thing is, and you already know it, the sharpening tool and plunge grind. It's too close to the edge. That is an unacceptable plunge grind. Bring that plunge grind back here so that you don't just, as soon as you sharpen this, you're going to hit this plunge grind. You know, maybe you'll get one sharpening in, but that's about it. Maybe one, if that. And if you lay back the edge angle like I would want to do, it's going to hit it. My next complaint, T6s. Don't like T6s. Just wish knives would just use T8s across the board, even for budget knives. We have many budget knives that already do that, so it's not like they can't do it. Next thing, and this is kind of subjective, but D2 steel, right? You know, I think for the price, it's a good steel. I do think it's a good steel, but I think people are getting sick of it. You know, every budget knife has it, and we know that it's not able to be heat treated to a proper level or properly when it's done in large batches like this, because D2 was never designed and never made for large batch production. Yes, it's a steel that's easy to heat treat for heat treaters, especially when you're doing 1, 2, 5 blades. But when you're doing hundreds, it's very difficult to make it consistent. And we know that, with the testings we've done on D2. D2 is still a solid steel. But I'd like to start seeing other budget steels take its place that are more desired, that are basically the same price. Now, other than that, like the blade shape, it doesn't make as much sense for the wave. I think a spear point would have been better. A spear point would be more effective for, the purpose of a wave feature. But I don't think this is bad, and I think you could obviously do a lot of damage with this if you needed to in a self-defense situation. But, it's just a preference. Like, I would prefer it to not be so stout at the tip and it be a little bit more acute, more precision. But, like I said, it's going to slice really good. And anyways, just a quick look at it. A few nitpicks, but let me be honest, it's a good knife. It's solid. It's, like I said, rock solid lockup. The lockup is nice and strong. Good access to the lock bar. Very smooth on the drop. Fantastic detent. Good ergos. It's going to slice good. And it's well done. Like, all in all, it is a very well done knife, especially for the price. So, there you guys go. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Everything will be linked down in the description. Peace.